What we're going to do is we're going to try and talk a little bit about Ma'oz Tzur. I'm sure many of us have at least one, maybe more than one nigun. We're humming that already. It sounds like it's the Jewish equivalent of December carols. That's really what I feel like, especially the Ma'oz Tzur nigun specifically. Right? So
it's a Christian one, no?
Yeah. That's why I'm saying. Okay. So just a few introductory comments, and then all I want to do is go through Ma'oz Tzur, just highlight what is going on, what are we trying to do over here when we're saying this. Maybe something to think about. Ma'oz Tzur is a poem that appears in I think in about the 14th century, the earliest time. The last stanza, Chasar Zera Kashecha, that I think is about a century later. And it already became popular at the time of, in that time period, and then the fame just kind of spread. This is just a case, I tell you, I enjoy the study of piyutim of Zmiros. It's one of those areas that we don't really delve into. We kind of say the words and it's a good nigun, and then we kind of move on. But if you think about the goal of the role that shira, that music, and nigun has, we'll find that there's really so much more here. And one of the things that makes nigun and piyutim beautiful and challenging at the same time is they just need Tanakh well, and we don't. So they're just quoting or referencing psukim in Tanakh and in Shas, and concepts in Shas, and references over here and there to make it fit. Ma'oz Tzur, like many piyutim that we have, spells out the author of the name right. If you look, I gave you, everyone has this sheet, at least there's two sheets right now. So if you look at the first, right, the order goes like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it spells out Mordechai, right? Mem, Ma'oz, Ra'os, Dvir, Kros, and Yevanim. That spells Mordechai. That's the way the author always put in their name, so you know who it is, Mordechai. And then the last one, which we said was added about a century later, the first three letters are Chasod, Zora, Kochecha, Ches, Zayin, Kuf, which is Chazak. We'll end up with a bang. That's you find a few things there like Baruch Kel Elyon on Shabbos, right? So we say that's written by someone named Baruch, and the acronym is Baruch Chazak. He's a real gather. Ma'oz Tzur is it's called a word states right now. Come on, give me the fancy term. ABBA. Oh, stop. No, not Qatar. No. Chiastic. Thank you. I was going to say chiasm, but it's not chiastic. So Ma'oz Tzur is written in ABBA, right? Ma'oz Tzur Yishuasi L'chanim L'Shabeach V'sham Toda Mizabeach Mitzah HaMnabeach. That's not as good, etc. It's ABBA. What you'll notice is sometimes the author will kind of shtup in some words that don't exactly fit or aren't grammatically correct in order to make the rhyme fit. Just as a glaring example in Ma'oz Tzur. Who are the heroes of the Chanuka story? In Hebrew?
Maccabee.
No. Chashmonaim. You're right. What's the difference between Chashmonaim and Maccabee? We've heard the term Chashmonaim. Yeah. We've heard the term Maccabee. What's the difference between the two?
Chashmonaim is the family name of the Kohen Gadol.
Good. Chashmonaim seems to be the family name, whereas the army seems to have been the Maccabee. That's one important point. Now, in Ma'oz Tzur, we reference this family. Just if you go to the fifth paragraph, which is over here, Yevanim Niklatzurai, Azai Bimei. Finish the sentence. No, the word is the way you say this. Azai Bimei Chashmanim. There's no people Chashmanim, but it won't fit it won't fit if you threw in that aleph Chashmanayim. So they just chopped off the aleph. Azai Bimei Chashmanim. It's just to make the rhyming and the cadence fit. Okay, so let's go through at a cursory glance. Actually, no, before that. The theme of Ma'oz Tzur is very simple. It's all about goals. It's a history of goals. But if you look at source number 2, the Medrash writes, when we come to difficult circumstances, Hey, Omer L'Kadosh Baruch Hu Galus Anu. We say Kadosh Baruch Hu save us. But Kadosh Baruch Hu Amar Lem Yesh V'Nechem Yer Shemayim. Hashem says, I'll save you, but you have to be Yer Shemayim. V'Heim Omer L'Sha'avar B'Mei Moshe B'Mei Yeshua B'Mei David B'Mei Shmuel. Aval Achshav Kol Shanu Holchin Hi Machshachas Lanu. We say we used to be so connected to Kadosh Baruch Hu because in those days, but nowadays it's so dark outside. It's so dark. It's so difficult, and we just don't know how to do this. Well, let us. This is what we say as part of the Shabbos standing, the Mizmor Shel Yom Shabbos. That comes out when it's dark. The darkness of Chanuka is when we focus on the Golus, the darkness of Golus, and we daven for the Yeshua to come. The sheets are broken down. Everyone has two sheets. It's not like this. You can have the most in front of you, and then have the accompanying packet. Let's call it. Let's just go through and try and understand where it's coming from. Ma'os through Yeshuasi. Sorry, the last introductory point we'll know this is the way that if you know the niggin well, the way you sing it doesn't match up to the way that it should be read. We'll point out one gross misconduct of the niggin, let's call it. But that's in a few stanzas. Okay. Ma'os through Yeshuasi. So the strength of the rock is my salvation. To you it is great to praise. This is clearly a reference to Kadosh Baruch Hu, right, in source number 3 on the second page, on the other sheet. In Parshas Hazinu, we describe Hashem, Hatzur Tamim Pa'olov. You Hashem are the rock that is steady, that saves us. And Rashi over there says in source number 4, Hatzur Tamim Pa'olov. Afal Pishu Chazak. Even though Hashem is coming down with that mighty hand, but He's just. This is a good introduction to our poem, which is discussing Golus. We're describing the darkness. We're describing Hashem's swift hand coming against us. But nevertheless, we start off saying Hatzur Tamim Ba'olo Ma'us Tzur Yeshuasi. Tikun Beis Tivasi. So establish the Beis Tila. The Beis Tila is the Beis Hamikdash, right? That's clearly a reference to what we have in source number 6, right? Possibly say as part of the Rosh Hashanah Kippur davening. We have a niggun for that one as well. Yeah, some of us. That we describe the Beis Hamikdash as the Beis Tila. Why does the author not say Beis Mikdashi? Right? Tikon Beis, establish my house of Mikdashi. Why is it Beis Tfilasi, not Beis Mikdashi? Right? Anyone here's a question? What? It could have said Tikon Beis Mikdashi. Why does it say Tikon Beis Tfilasi?
Because it goes better.
Goes better. Okay. So, in what sense does it go better?
Flow of
Why? Mikdashi Tfilasi. Same syllables. So there's a rhyming issue here, which is the previous sentence is Ma'os Tur Yeshuasi. So Yeshuasi, and we think in secular rhyming patterns, Yeshuasi and Mikdashi rhyme. In Piyut that doesn't rhyme. Yeshuasi and Tfilasi rhyme. You have to have the last two syllables. But I think there's another reason here, which is this pasuk. Because when we call the Beis Hamikdash Beis Tefillah, we're referencing this pasuk. This pasuk tells us that the Beis Hamikdash is a center of the world. If you think about what's going on as part of the Chanuka fight, there's this issue of how much are we part of the rest of the world. So it's, in a certain sense, we declare we are closed off to the rest of the world, but we're not entirely closed off, because our central place of worship is a Beis Tefillah Chalamim, is a place where everyone can daven. So even though we are pushing back against Greek culture, but we're not fully pushing back against Greek culture or the inclusion of other peoples in terms of Avodas Hashem, because there's a place for that. Let's keep going. And there we will bring a carbon toga. We're describing here what the Medrash says in source number 7. Or Pinchas or Levi or Yochanan, Hashem Reb Nachem, the Gali La'asi Lavo. In the future, Kol Karbanos Patelim, all Karbanos will be nullified. Carbon toga in a bottle. A Thanksgiving carbon, that's not turkey, will not go away. The carbon toga has this special place. So too the Medrash says, Kol Tfilos Patelos, all future Tfilos will no longer be there, but That will also not go away. So when we say V'sham Toda Nezabeach, we're not just saying, and there we'll say thanks to you Hashem, but we're describing a messianic era of Mikdash. La'is Tachi Mateach. At the time when you prepared the destruction, the slaughter really, of the destruction, Mitzar HaMnabeach, from the oppressor who is Minabeach. Minabeach means to groan out, to roar maybe even. Oz Egmor Bashir Mizmor Chanukas Mizbeach. Then we will finish Bashir Mizmor, this song, Chanukas Mizbeach. First of all, this is clearly a play on what we say in Oz Yashir, right? We're familiar. We said we davened this morning. Some of us. Come on, give me some nods. Don't make me feel bad. So the Mefarshim are all bothered. The Chazal are even bothered. What does it mean? Oz Yashir Moshe. Translate. Oz Yashir Moshe. Then Moshe sang? Well, not really. Conjugate properly.
Then Moshe rules.
Right. So the Mefarshim are all bothered. What does it mean, Oz Yashir Moshe? So this is the Mefarshim. This is one of the allusions of the Torah to the future. Oz Yashir Moshe. In the future they will sing. So what we're describing is, look at this. We're describing a vision of a messianic era. Oz Egmar B'Shimir Mizmor. We will finish off that Oz Yashir that was started all those years ago. When will we do that? Chanukas Mizbeach. It's interesting. What is the celebration of Chanukah about? So, if you look in the Gemara, let's look at section 5. The Gemara says, "My Chanukah." What is Chanukah? The Tanur Rabbanim, B'Chatad Kislev 20 Kislev, Yom Chanukah Tamina Iyun. There are 8 days Chanukah. There are 8 days where we do not fast, where we do not eulogize. When the Greeks, will refine that in a second, came into the Holy of Holies, Timu Kol Shemaim Shvehechal. And when the kingdom of the Chashmonaim came and defeated them, so just a few historical curiosities over here, they didn't defeat them. Right? They did not defeat them. Matisel has a whole bunch of sons who are killed in battle. When are they killed? Before the Chanukah story or after the Chanukah story? After. Why were they killed afterwards if we won the war? Because we didn't win the war.
We won the battle, huh?
We got to the Beis Hamikdash. That's what we did. We got to the Beis Hamikdash. Okay, that's a whole other curiosity and just, planting seeds for your own further research. And then the Gemara goes on to tell the story. Not enough oil, 1 day, 8 days, beautiful. If you look in the Al Nisim, which we say is part of Chanukah, so there's no mention of the oil. What is mentioned over there? Anyone preparing for Al Nisim a little bit? You're only going to say it 25 times. More, 30 times at least, depending on how much you watch.
What do you want?
Talk to them the war. So all the Mefarshim are bothered. So what exactly is the main point of Chanukah? Is the oil, the war? Well, then all of a sudden comes out of left field, Ma'asor, Chanukas HaMizbeach. Ooh. So what does Chanukas HaMizbeach even mean? Mishkan. So what does the word Chanukah mean? So if you look in Rashi, let's look at verse number 8. Paul says by Avram, Vayishma Avram, Ki Nishba Achiv. Avram hears that Lot, his brother or his nephew, was captured. Vayar is Chanichav Yiludi. So he gathers with him his Chanichav. What is Chanichav? Says Rashi, verse number 9. Chanichav Chontoksiv Ki Eliezer. V'hu Lashon Haschalas Kli Sa'adam. O Kli Umnus Shu Asi Lamua. Chinuch, says Rashi, means when you set something up that it will be used in the future. Chanukas HaMizbeach means, says Rashi, when I'm using something, I'm setting up the Mizbeach so we could re-inaugurate Korbanos. Fascinating. Shlomo Zalman has a piece where he says, why do we eat Sufganiyah? Now, it's not going to answer all the Sufganiyah questions, it'll just answer some of them. So it says for Shlomo Zalman, why do we eat Sufganiyah on I was going to say on Pesach, that would be really bad. on Chanukah. So it says for Shlomo Zalman, because of the after bracha. After bracha? So okay, let's assume you're eating one Sufganiyah. It's hard, I know. But if you're only eating one Sufganiyah, what's the after bracha? Al Nifya. So Sesser Shlomo Zalman, Al Nifya is just a condensed version of benching. Why would I want to do that on Chanukah? So he says, because there's one line of Al Nifya that does not appear in benching, which is Al Mizbechecha. We daven for the Mizbeach. Says the Shlomo Zalman on Chanukah, it doesn't explain the deep fried, doesn't explain the sugar on top, doesn't explain the jelly or the whatever you like inside. That's all Kabbalah. But says the Shlomo Zalman, we want to make an Al Michya on Chanukah. Why do you want to make an Al Mizbeach? You want to daven for the Mizbeach. You want to daven for the Korbanos come back. That's Chanuka Mizbeach. Okay, let's go to the next paragraph. Ra'us Sava Nafshi, my soul has been satiated with evil. B'yagim Klei Tequila, with despair, my strength has been sapped. Chaya Maru B'koshi, my life has been embittered. B'shibud Malchus Egla, with the enslavement of the Malchus Egla. What's the Malchus Egla? The calf kingdom or the stroller kingdom? I don't know what that means exactly. So this is where you just have to look at. When you're looking Yumi and searching the Torah, the Pasuk says, "Egla Yefei Pia Mitzrayim." Mitzrayim is described in Navi as a calf type of people. Whatever the reason is, okay, you can look in there's some Mefarshim over there, but just that's a reference to Mitzrayim. So in the second paragraph, we're now going through the process of Galus, which describes Mitzrayim. There's a pasuk in Micha, in source number 11, which says, "Ki meit teischam eretz Mitzrayim," just like the days when you left Mitzrayim, our enemy flows. You will see great things in the future. I once saw this in, I think, the Marashtam maybe, that suggested the Yitzis Mitzrayim is our model for Galus and Gula. All subsequent Galus and Gulas must trace themselves back and follow the model of Yitzis Mitzrayim. So when we're talking about Yitzis Mitzrayim, that's not just because we're talking about something historical, but we're talking about something which serves as the basis for our ultimate Gula. If we keep going, Ubi Yada Hagdola, with Hashem's great hand, Hotzi Esa Skula, he took out the Skula. Skula means the Am Skula, the treasure nation, the chosen nation, that's us, if you didn't know. Chel Paro B'chol Zara, that is Paro's army, B'chol Zara and all his descendants. Yardu Ke'evin B'Mitzula, they descended like a rock to the depths of the ocean, right? This is a paraphrase from what we say is part of the Oz Yashir also this morning, some of us. Okay, that's paragraph 2, that's Mitzrayim. Paragraph number 3. Devir Kocho Heviani. Devir, what does Devir mean? Also from our davening? What?
Words.
No?
Plate.
What?
Plate.
Plate?
It's a word for mikdash.
Good. Devir is a code word for mikdash. Right, we say this is part of our davening, right? Ritzeh Shemachim Bam Kaito V'Yisrael. How many else? Where do we say Devir? The Devir Beisech. Devir is really code word for Kodesh Kodashim. But more broadly, it can also be used poetically for mikdash. Devir Kocho Hediani. The Devir of his Kodesh. I brought Arthur here just I'm just curious how some of the Arthur translates. The abode of his holiness. Devir is code word for mikdash. Devir Kocho Hediani. He brought me into the base of mikdash. Right? This is now we're in the base of mikdash. The Gam Sham, and also there, Lo Shakati. I didn't have quiet. Ubana Geshli Glani, and an oppressor came and exiled me. Ki Zarin Avanti, because I worshipped foreign things. The Yain Ra'al Masachti, and I drank Yain Ra'al. What's Ra'al in modern Hebrew means poison. But Yain Ra'al, look at Rashi in verse number 14. Rashi writes, Yain Ra'al ha'oten esalev. Yain Ra'al is something which blocks the heart. It means I drank the Kool-Aid that blocked me from a relationship with the Kodesh Baruch Hu. Kimat Shavarti, right? Yain Ra'al Masachti. That I drank this spiritual blocking wine, whatever that means. Kimat Shavarti, and as I had just been over, I just departed from my land, and Kate's Bavel, the end of the Galus of Bavel. This is all describing the Bavel experience. And then the kids think this is like a nice rhyme. Kate's Bavel, Zerubbabel, but who was Zerubbabel?
That came from that came down from Ezra, right?
A little before Ezra, right? Zerubbabel is the one that leads the charge to come back to Eretz Yisrael. A little before you're right, I think. So, Kate's Bavel, Zerubbabel means the end of the exile of Bavel. Now, who led the charge? Zerubbabel, L'Kates Shirim, at the end of the 7 years. We know there were 7 years of Galus between the first base Mikdash and the second base Mikdash. No Shakti, I was saved. Let's go to the third paragraph, top left of here. This is the one where the niggin is atrocious. I'm just going to tell you right now. The comma here is the way it's sung, right? Kros koma barosh bikesh. Yes? Someone else can picture this? Kros koma barosh bikesh. Right, yeah? Everyone follows me? Agagi ben Amdasa. Wrong. So you can say it like that, just know that you're saying it wrong. The comma is Kros koma barosh, comma, bikesh agagi ben Amdasa. Let's translate. Kros means the cutoff. Kros koma means the cutoff, the towering barosh. Barosh is a type of a tree. Cypress tree, I think. Bikesh Agagi ben Hamdasa. Desired Agagi ben Hamdasa. Who's Agagi ben Hamdasa? Haman. Right? So the way we read it, the way we sing it, just dead wrong. Right? Wanted to cut off the head, Agagi ben Hamdasa. It doesn't fit. It's supposed to be DK, whatever. Now we're into the important story. V'niyas elo l'mokesh. There's a word missing. V'niyas elo l'pach u'mokesh. Right? I don't know, there's a typo over here. That it became for him like a snare, I think is the actual word, and a stumbling block. The gavasa mishvesa. And his arrogance caused him to be attacked. Rosh Yemini Seisa. You raised up the head of Yemini. Who's Yemini? Mordechai. How do you know?
Because he's called them.
Right. We say in Purim. It's one of the psukim that we read together. Ish Yemini Haya b'Shushan Rabira Ushmar Mordechai ben Yair ben Shimon ben Kish Ish Yemini. So Mordechai is Ish Yemini. So you raised up Ish Yemini. The Oyev and his enemy Shema Machisa. You erased the name. Rov Vanav, the majority of his children, Bikin Yanav, and his property. Alva Eitz Talisa. You hung the majority of his children and his property. So the Mefarshim are bothered by this. What does it mean, the majority of the children? And what does it mean you hung his property? Like you took his chairs and you hung them? What exactly are you picturing over here?
His kids are called property.
Okay, that's Ashkafa. That's Ashkafa. So, if you look in source number 15, the Gemara Megillah says, Tachas hanatus yale b'rosh, v'tachas sirpad yale hadash. So this is a pasuk we say is part of the haftarah for fast day, a regular fast day. The Gemara understands, Tachas Haman Harasha, Asa Atzma Avodah Zarah, Yala B'rosh. Then Mordechai. Mordechai is called the B'rosh. So when we say in the beginning of the paragraph, Kros Koma B'rosh, we mean that Bikesh Agagi ben Hamdasa, Haman wanted to destroy the towering B'rosh. Who's the B'rosh? Mordechai. Now what does it mean, the B'rosh Banav? So if you look in source number 16, the Gemara says, B'nei Shel Haman Lamdu Torah B'nei Brak. The great-grandchildren of Haman were learning Torah in B'nei Brak. This leads to a whole discussion, how's that possible? And even broader discussion, if you have to destroy Amalek, can you accept a convert from Amalek? I got the Amalek out of him, but he got Amalek genes. So this is a nice proof to a thought that Rabbi had based on his father, I think from his grandfather even, that Amalek is ideology, not genealogy. That there's a very odd story if you look in Sefer Shmuel, where Shaul is supposed to kill Agag, the king of Haman, the king of Amalek, and he kills everyone in Amalek except for Agag, and then a few prakim later, in Sefer Shmuel, you've got a whole town of Amalekites. So how did that happen? It's like, everyone's getting married at 8 years old and having children, like, how did that happen? So Soloveitchik said, no, you know what happened? Amalek is an ideology of people that want to destroy Promisor. And therefore, anybody can, in theory, it doesn't matter your DNA, anybody can become Amalek, but equally, if you drop that ideology, well then, that person would not be Amalek. And therefore, you could accept someone to convert from Amalek, which might explain this. And that might be Rov Banav. Right, if we take Rov Banav, right, Haman had a daughter. Maybe we hung all his sons, but the children, Bnei Banav, are from his daughter, and they're not Amalek. Why do we kill them not Amalek? Because they're Lam Tar Bnei Brak. The other point they discuss is the Kinyanov. So, maybe some of us go off to this in Megillah. The Gemara in Megillah talks about that Haman had a necklace with all sorts of indications of his wealth. The pasuk in the Megillah Esther says, "Kol Eila Einena Shavuli." Haman said, "All of this is worthless to me." So the Gemara is bothered over there. What does it mean, all this? What is the all this? Like, he pointed at all this is, what does it mean? So the Gemara says, no, he had on his necklace, like, all this stuff, that, this is my wealth here, this is my wealth there, this is my wealth there, and therefore he basically said, Kol Eila Einena Shavuli. All this is not worth it to me. Therefore, say something in the margin, that's what it means. How could you hang all his property? Because if you hang him and he's got the necklace on, well then you've hung all his property. Very creative way of interpreting this. Otherwise, I don't know what it means, the kinyana. Okay, next. Yevanim nikutzu alai, the Greeks gathered against me, azai b'nei chashmanim, in the days of the Chashmonaim, that's what we spoke of, the Chashmanim. I once saw that there was a Greek siddur that had a different text. Because technically, it was a little bit of an academic question, but who were the enemies in the Chanuka story? Seleucids, who were from Syria. They were not Greek. Now, they were Greek in everything except that they'd never been to Greece. That's like, people who grew up here and they're American.
Maybe it's also an ideology.
What? Yeah, absolutely. It's absolutely an ideology. So that in the Greek Sidurim, apparently they didn't want to say, the Greeks did this to us, so they had a different text. Surim nikbutzu alai. The Syrians came against it because they said, no, that's not, the whole time story is not us. That's the Seleucids. That's someone different. So Givan nikbutzu alai, other than Mechashwanim, upartzacham es migdalai. They breached the walls of my migdal. What's the migdal? It's migdash, right? Migdal yishos malka loiseches lim sheichom. V'timu kol hashmanim, and they defile all the oils. Umi nosar kankanim, and from the leftover jugs, nasa neis lasharshanim, a miracle was done in lasharshanim. What does sharshanim mean? The roses. What's that reference to?
The flowers on the menorah?
Hanukkah. Yeah, Hanukkah. We're in Shir Hashirim, I don't know if I put it on here. In Shir Hashirim, the pasuk, verse 23, Kashershana bein ha'chochim. Right, Kadosh Baruch Hu described us. We're like a thorn amongst the roses. Kain ra'yasi bein abanos. So too, my beloved is amongst all the women. That's a reference to us. We are the Shoshanim. This has to do with. We'll have time. We'll come back. We'll do this again Purim time, and we'll talk about the Purim period of Shoshanas Yaakov. Shoshanas Yaakov is the rose of Yaakov. That's a reference to us. Let's just keep going. B'nei Bina Yimei Shmona. These were men of understanding. Yimei Shmona for 8 days. Kavu Shir Uranani. They established days of song and gladness. I'm going to leave out Pshat in B'nei Bina over here because I want to leave that Pshat for Rabbi Schneider. Check with him. He wants. So right now we're not translating B'nei Bina, but you'll get that Pshat. So what does it mean? Partzacham migdalai. So if you look in the Mishnah Sechus Midos, verse number 17, the Mishnah says, in the inner, once we pass the outer wall of the Beis Hamikdash, now there was another inner wall called the Sarei, and over there the Mishnah describes the Shalosh Esrei Pirtzos Hayusham. There were 13 breaches in the wall. Shepartzu Malchei Yavan, that the Greek Seleucid kingdom breached. I don't know if there's a word for that. So when we say Partzacham Migdalai, we don't just mean, they broke through the walls. We're referencing this specific Mishnah. They broke through in 13 places. The number 13 obviously has significance. You Gimel Midos, etc. But that's already too much for us right now. Let's those of us that learn the Gemara might be bothered, or hopefully are bothered by a question. We say over here, Umi Nosar Kankani, from the leftover kankan. Kankan is like a jug. Anyone bothered by that phrase? Or in the Al-Nisi? Right? So just as an aside, while I've been thinking about this, what you'll notice is, we don't have to prove this now, but anyone think they could roughly get down the Al-Nisim for Purim? Or the Al-Nisim for Hanukkah?
By heart?
Yeah. Both?
I didn't recite them now.
I'm not asking to do it, but I'm saying there's not just the song part. Come on. I mean, B'mei Matisel Ben Yochanan Kadol or B'mei Mordechai Yes, etc. So, just interesting that they. I'm sorry. Anyways, what I wanted is not here, but just point out the Chanukah one. Most people who have been davening for a few years will find it much easier to recite the Chanuka one by heart than the Purim one by heart. Why? No. No.
Do it more.
No.
8 days in a row?
Which, in other words, what am I angling at?
It's consistent. We're just keep on saying
Chazara. I'm telling you, think about it. You say this every time during Shon Esrei. That's 25 times over Hanukkah, right? 8 times 3 is 24 plus 1 Musaf, 25. And then at least 3 times over Shabbos, we're up to 28. Malav Malka, obviously, 29. And then if you wash at any other point, you're already hit 30 times. How many times do you say this on Purim? 4? Once drunk and then 3 times during davening? Like, when do you do this? So the Chazara works. You say it enough times, it will go in. Okay. But anyways, if you look, I have to say it like another 30 times and everyone will get it. So if you look in the Gemara, it's actually not, I don't know why I thought it should be in the Al-Nisim, but you look in the Gemara describes, what did they find? What we have it here. Right? If you go back, what? Pach. Good. It says they found a pach Shem. What's a pach?
Singular.
Okay, and what's a kan?
A jug.
Okay, so now, here's the problem. Why does the peel say umi nosar kankani from the leftover jug, kankan, and not from the nosar pach? Or pachim? We can make it work.
Pachim is not going to sound right.
Why not? Umi nosar pachim, nasa nesar shoshayin. It works.
It doesn't go with the flow.
I think it does. So,
I'm kind of used to the other one, so I can't.
A bottle can be leftover from a jug. The jug can't be leftover from a bottle.
I don't know.
The double syllable, Kankan and Shoshani.
Yeah, okay. We could work it out, I think. Yeah, we can make pachachim. Like, in the world of peel, that's totally fine. So I'll share with you. This is the idea of the Bnei Sasvar. The Bnei Sasvar asks this question, and he says, I think he presents this in the opposite order, but okay. Look at source 21. It's a facetious chat, but it's something to think about. He says, source 21. Yeah. Rabbeim, mission Pagavos. Al tistako b'kankan. Don't look at the kankan. El mashi yeshva. Rather, look at what is inside of it. Right? That's basically what we say. Don't judge a book by its cover. I think I once heard of Nelson Sherman, one of the founders of Art Scroll, who said like that's true unless you work in publishing. Then you do judge a book by its cover. But okay. So says the Bnei Sasvar. Now that I know that, what does it mean to look? Not look at the kankan. Look what's inside. So he says a devout chat. Look in source 22. We say this is the Kriyas Torah for fasting. Vayerin Hashem Ba'anon, Hashem descended from the mountain. Vayitzasei Moshe, Vayikra B'Shem Hashem, and we called out the name of Hashem. Vayavar Hashem Apana, Vayikra Hashem passed by says and said, Hashem Kel Rachim B'Chan Erfayin B'Chesed Emes, Noitz Chesed V'Alachim V'Tzi Avram Pesach V'Chatav V'Nakei Lo Yinakei, etc. Let's just focus on what I bolted over here. So he says the Bnei Sasvar. I can't take the spider joke. It's a good spider joke. Right. What does V'Nakei Lo Yinakei mean? Can you translate that? Right. So that's the Sephardi husbands say to their wives, "Come take the fire." V'Nakei Lo Yinakei. Cleaning? No, I'm not going to clean. That's a good. Anyways, but says the Bnei Sasvar. I'm trying to remember exactly how you work this out. Yeah. If you ignore the word lo for a second, and then you take v'nakei and yinakei, and take out the words which would form kankan, nun kuf. So what are you left with? Vav he yud he, Shem Hashem. So it says the Bnei Sasvar, look at that. When it says ignore the kankan and look what's inside of it, so he says what that means is ignore the kankan and look at what's the inside of Shem Hashem. So going back to us, that's maybe what it says the Bnei Sasvar. That's what we should be thinking about when we say this line in the Malasur. Umi nosar kankanim. From what's left over from the kankan, we take out the kankad, and what's left is the Shem Hashem. In other words, this is the whole Greek ideology of, says the Bnei Sasvar, of not just looking at surface level and the scientific enterprise of what's in front of us, but going to the deeper level, so then we see the Shem Hashem. Let's just do the last paragraph. Stretch out your holy hand. The courage takes a gulam. Bring us the end to gula. Avenge the blood of your servant from the evil nation. This would be the Golus of Urim, the Golus of Edom. Ki archa lana Yeshua. The salvation is so far from us. There's no end to the evil days. Push off the red one, Esav, Edom, in the shadow of I'll think of the English word for a second. Hakim Lanu Rabbi Shiva, and establish for us these 7 servants, shepherds. Thank you, shepherds. This is a reference to a Gemara at the end of the Sefer Sukkah, in section 25. Man Hinu Shiva Rari. Who are these 7 shepherds? David the Ensa, David's right in the middle. Adam, Jason, Mr. Miyamino. Adam and his descendants on one side. Avram, Yaakov, and Moshe, B'Shmolo on the other side. Okay, also this question is more. What happened to Yitzchak? What happened to Shlomo? All different questions. But that's what we're referencing. Hakim Lanu Goyim Shiva. Why is that? Because that really is what will usher in Mashiach. And that's really what this whole tefillah is about. It's about going through Golos, the story called Chanuka. We went through Golos, Mitzrayim, Bavel, Purim, Yavan, and last paragraph. Now we're looking towards Gula. Now we're looking towards Mashiach. The Hakim Lanu Shiva bring us those 7 shepherds that will usher in the Gula. You look at some section 26. The Medrash says, "Rish Lakish pasuk carried the Malchus." The Aretz Haitzitz over the second pasuk in the Torah. The world was Tohu, Zeh Bavel, Ubohu, Zeh Haman. We're referencing each Golus. V'choshech, the darkness is Yavan. Al Pnei Teham, Zu Malchus HaRashah, that's Edom. So now we have the whole pasuk of all the Golus, and then the Medrash says, "Beruach Elokim Rachefes," and the Spirit of Hashem was gliding over the water. Zeh Ruach Hashem Mashiach. That's Mashiach. What follows is not just this utter darkness, but it's the darkness that leads to Mashiach. This is what we mean. If you look in the Medrash, verse number 27, Amar Revchanim, V'schus Halalus Ner Tamid, Atem Zochim Hakufnei Ner Shel Melech Mashiach. When we are zocha to bring the Ner Tamid, the daily light, the constant light in the Beis Mikdash, then we'll have the light of Mashiach. This is what we mean. There's a whole other shia, but this is really what we mean. Va'arichas Ner Ben Yishai Mishifecha. Right? This is a song we sing as well, the Yamin Naraim. What does that mean? We're setting up the Ner, the candles for Ben Yishai, reference to Mashiach. This is really what the Maus Tur is driving.